Welcome to Astro Chat with Anne Sundell, Kimberly Williams, and Monika Anna. We are three professional astrologers living in three separate countries, coming together every new and full moon to share our 3 points of view on astrology. Whether you enjoy deep dives into the current transits or you are just beginning to learn about astrology for the first time, there is a place for you here. All that is required is an appreciation for astrology, along with respect for the various traditions within it. So grab a mug of coffee, your favorite cup of tea, or any other beverage of your choice, and join us for a chat on the astrology of the next 2 weeks. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Astro Chat. My name is Kimberly Williams, and I am going to be the mistress of ceremonies today. We are going to have Anne Sundell and Monika Anna joining us, but we're recording this in November. It's close to the holidays. It is during a Mercury retrograde. It is warming up for an upcoming Mars retrograde. So not surprisingly, our schedules have been crazy. And on top of that, computers have been crazy. I don't know about y'all, but if you use any Apple devices, there's been some upgrades, which equates to chaos in our worlds. So I hope you will join us, grab your coffee, your beverage of choice, sit back and enjoy the information as it comes out. It's going to be a bit pieced together with all of us. So hopefully this will resonate for you. And know that you're not alone if you are also experiencing some of the joys of Mercury retrograde. We're right here feeling it with you. All right, let's dive in. First up is the fact that we're looking at what is happening from the new moon on December 1st. Here in the United States Central Time Zone, it is at 12:21 in the morning. Across the pond in England, that would be, I think, 6:21 a.m. if I got my time change correct. In Finland, that's 8:21 a.m. And if you live somewhere else, as always, please convert it to your time zone. We're really not going to dive into all the things happening. There is a lot happening during this 2-week window. We're going to start off with Monika telling us a bit about the energy of what it means to have this new moon in Sagittarius. Anne's going to chime in and talk to us a bit about the Sabian symbol of this particular new moon lunation. And I'm going to give some info about 2 transits of particular note. One is the Mercury retrograde and the other is the Mars retrograde. All right, so let's dive in and see who we can pull up here first.
Hello, this is Anne Sundell from Finland, talking about the Sabian symbol for the new moon in Sagittarius. And the Sabian symbol will be read for the degree number 10. The symbol phase 250, and it says a theatrical representation of a golden-haired goddess of opportunity. So we have Sag, we have the sign of vision and optimism. We have Jupiter as a ruler of Sag. So we might be presented with question of what can life offer right now with this new moon, and what about our visions, our plans right now. Sag is a lot about the journey, about evolving, about growth on different levels. And right now it might be good to be able to distinguish between what's the surface, what does it look like, and what is it actually in reality. We have Saturn also into this new moon, so it's good to try to make these visions into more detailed plans, or to maybe go through them on different levels. We are having quite tricky energy in fire elements with this new moon, and it can be a lot about distinguishing between what's a charade and what's the reality about. Right now, there's a lot of fear around, and we might feel that we get influenced by what we see in media and it's important to understand and to remember where we are in reality right now. Also, what is that? How's that happening? Because so we don't get swept away by these big things and visions, and maybe also by what we want to achieve, and is that actually realistic? And how do I get to my own individual plan of how I want to proceed right now? Sagittarius and Jupiter might bring opportunities or new horizons that helps us with growing. And some of them might be too good to be true, and sometimes it's like that, but also to reality check those ideas and plans, because when we have retrograde Mercury also in Sag, and we have Mars starting to do a retrograde phase at the 6th of December, we have fire energy in a bit different mode than usually. I wanted to have a fire today just to feel the fire energy and how it's working on different level, because that's something I feel that's really connected with this moon and this Sabian symbol. How do we manage fire energy in our life? Where does the new moon, the retrograde Mercury, the retrograde Mars manifest in our personal horoscope, for example? What areas of life do we go through these fire phases right now? There might be impulsiveness, and we want things to happen fast and right now and my way. And that's important to also remember, that it's good to, especially with Mars retrograding, to be able to wait, maybe sleep on a decision we want to make, not get too tempted to start a fight or a quarrel with somebody. So just like count to 10 when we feel that we are getting agitated from something, because that might be the Mars energy, but also that with fire energy level, there's always a danger of being burned out. We are burning our candle both ways, and it's too much to handle. So how do we get maybe a good schedule to manage these tasks we want to do, to go toward the goal we want to achieve, and still see that this is actually possible if I manage it with time? So an interesting new moon, intense, different energy levels, and patience might be one thing that we also need a bit of right now. I hope you will have a very, very nice new moon and very beautiful new visions for the coming month ahead. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone. This new moon episode will be slightly different, as three of us couldn't synchronize our diaries, not as surprising during Mercury retrograde. And even though I'm recording from home today, again, I had some technical difficulties. We tend to blame on Mercury retrograde, but it has been pretty hilarious that it's not just me, but seems the technical difficulties affect even companies like Apple, and they need to fix some recent issues that happen in their latest upgrade. That's affecting not only me, but actually quite a few customers. One thing about Mercury retrograde, I think it's about rethinking and reevaluating things, and maybe taking a different path as well. A different path of communication, different path to get to our goal. Here we are, I'm recording on my phone just to make sure that this episode is going out there and you have news for the new moon in Sagittarius, and what a full new moon it is. I was reflecting on what I'd like to say today about a new moon in Sagittarius, and one thing I was thinking about is how amazing the whole wheel of the year, the whole zodiac wheel is, and how we learn from the previous sign, taking those lessons into the next sign, and then in preparation for yet another one. And I was also reflecting how Sagittarius season happens between Scorpio and Capricorn, and it's ultimately the darkest time of the year. In Scorpio, we would think that Scorpio would be the darkest, most heavy time of the year, and actually it's not. Scorpio comes after the equinox, after the Libra equinox. We have the balance of night and day, then the days get darker. We're shedding everything, especially in northern hemisphere at this time of the year. The nature sheds everything, sheds all the leaves, all the fruits. And we're going through that death in preparation for the rebirth that will happen at the winter solstice, where the sun will rise again and the day will start getting longer. But I was thinking, why would we put Sagittarius in between? It's dark, and Sagittarius is nothing but dark. Sagittarius is fire, it's hope, it's illumination, it's vision. And I was also reflecting how in a time of the year when everything is dark, then especially in the northern hemisphere where I live, and the days are getting shorter, and we know the sun will rise again, and the sun will turn, and at the winter solstice the sun will start turning and the days will getting longer. We know that, but at the time where the astrology was first birthed, by the time where people were just looking up to the heavens, this was the time of uncertainty. And even now, on certain psychological level, we do suffer with winter depression, with our moods changing during this time because of the lack of sunlight outside. And I was thinking that there is a beauty and wisdom in Sagittarius being here. There is a wisdom of that fire within us, that fire of illumination, that fire of the vision that we hold dear, whatever vision that is, the vision for better life for us, for our children, for the world, to hold on to hope and to hold on to that spark that we need to carry through the darkest days. As I was reflecting, I had this picture, this scene in my mind from Neverending Story. I'm not sure how many people know this movie. I think it's from 80s. But there is a scene when the boy and a horse are walking through the swamp of sorrow, the swamp of sadness, and the horse is getting sucked up by the swamp. The explanation in that scene is that you do get swamped, literally and metaphorically. You do get sucked in by the sorrow and sadness if you don't hold on to hope, if you give up, if you let the grief and the sadness and the sorrow overwhelm you, and you don't have anything to hold on to. You are getting overwhelmed, you're getting sucked up by that, and then you're drowning in this. And I was thinking about that Sagittarian energy that we need before Capricorn, before we can start planning, before we know that the sun is reborn on 21st of December, before we can start planning for the new year, putting our structures in place, putting our New Year's resolution. The hope starts now, the vision starts now. And in the world that we live in, I think this wisdom of holding on to meaning, holding on to things that are important to us in the times that are or seems to be super dark and very sorrowful and very difficult, and we can't yet see that light at the end of the tunnel, and we have to find that light within us. I think that's the wisdom that we're learning at this new moon. Sagittarius is linked with teachers, with gurus, with spiritual teachers, with our priests, with justice as well. But again, there is this beauty of justice and a system. There's a difference between justice that comes from Sagittarius, from following that truth and that meaning and following the importance of living with the values, and the system that comes with Capricorn that lives by the book and lives by the order planned. So as I was reflecting on this new moon, and this new moon is connected in T-square with Sagittarius in Jupiter, which has yet another meeting since they met in a conjunction a few years ago. This is yet another opening to their dance. that balance between expansion of Jupiter, believing that something good will happen, having that, what some people might call delusional faith and hope in there is good out there. I will be that movie star, or I will be that amazing entrepreneur, or I will be that fantastic artist. That hope that we have, that some people don't buy into our dreams. Sagittarius is the dream. Sagittarius is the expansion of our dreams. And we need that strength and energy and fire to carry us through the darkness, through all those naysayers who might not believe, until we go to Capricorn season and we can plan, we can put the actions, we can put the points. This Sagittarius moon, it's linked, like I said, with Saturn and Jupiter in what we as astrologer calls T-square. So the new moon is opposing Jupiter, and it's making a tense aspect with Saturn. And again, being in Jupiter's sign, it's talking to the ruler of Jupiter and saying, okay, what is it that we need to learn this time around? The new moon is at 9 of Sagittarius, and it's very close to Mercury, who is currently in retrograde motion, as I mentioned earlier. And I think it's just a perfect time to rethink, reevaluate with Mercury, to look at our values, at our everything that brings meaning to our life. There's this amazing book written by Viktor Frankl. I forget the titles at the moment, but I will put it under our video. The book is very much talking about how, when we hold on to meaning, we can get through even the most difficult journeys in our life. And I think I would encourage everyone, I know I'm getting my tips out much earlier, but I think my tip for this new moon is to take up a gratitude practice or Thanksgiving practice, whatever you prefer to name it, before a lunar month, from now until the new moon in Capricorn. Every day, whatever you prefer to do, spend 5 to 10 minutes in gratitude. And I know it might sound super awkward and it might just sound like it's not your nature, but give it a try. Just try an exercise. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, you'll leave it there. Please comment on the next video, say, you know what, it didn't work for me. But just having 10 minutes, whether in the morning when you wake up, in the afternoon when you have 10 minutes to yourself, or maybe 5-10 minutes before you go to bed after you brush your teeth, and spend that time either with your journal. I would encourage you to actually write down those things, not just say it. But if there is difficulties with finding time, just even say it to yourself. Say 2 to 3 things that you're grateful for that day. And try to alternate that. Try to find different things in the day that you are happy and grateful for. Whether it is this amazing cup of coffee that this great barista gave you, whether it's your pet that just came and made you feel a little bit better when you were stressed at work and working from home, and the pet came and gave you a hug or a cuddle, whether it was this beautiful meal that you managed to get with your family that you haven't seen for a while, whether it's this beautiful book that you read that inspired you to take up an art class, whether it's your dancing partner that you found through those random classes on the internet and you just have so much fun every Wednesday afternoon. From small to major things, whether it's this beautiful house that you live in, that you have privilege to live in with your family, whether it's the landscape in the place where you live, the mountains, the lakes, the sea, the beautiful forest, whatever it is, find that moment to really truly connect. And as you say your gratitude using your own words, connect with that, see it in your mind's eye, see that place, feel that taste of coffee, taste that beautiful meal that your partner cooked, hear that laughter of your friends as they came together for a board game night, and try to fill your life, your soul with those emotions. Because it feels like we'll need that. We'll need to tap into that bank of beauty and grace and happiness and joy when we sometimes are in those darker times. I do encourage you to write it down. There's a lovely little exercise I didn't come up with that. I don't remember where I've read about it. But you could actually use post-it notes or just tiny little pieces of cardboard paper, or just piece of paper, and have a jug or a jar, or I don't know, a little box, whatever you prefer, and put 2 or 3 of those every day for a month. At Christmas time, when you're sitting with your family or whether you're sitting by yourself, to have that box open and to read through all those messages can have a beautiful uplifting moment. Again, just to be a reminder of those little moments that we have can balance sometimes the sorrow, the sadness, and the darkness of the swamp that we might have to walk through in life. So this will be my tip for this new moon, and I'm really hoping that Mercury is not going to play more tricks on us, and this video with me, Kimberly, and Anne will get to you in time. I wish you a beautiful new Sagittarian moon. I will be doing my gratitude for the month, and I will be writing my visions as well in my journal. I'll be using actually my Astroluna journal to write my vision. So when the new moon in Capricorn comes in a month's time, I'll be ready to set that vision into motion, into plan and steps and actions. But for now, let's create the vision, let's hope, let's dream, and let's be grateful. Thank you all.
Wow. So all that info on the Sabian symbol, all that info about the new moon, so much to think about and to work with. I want to dive in and talk a bit about 2 retrogrades that we're going to be dealing with during this 2-week window. First, let's talk about the quicker of the 2. Let's talk about Mercury retrograde. I know most of us are familiar with the term. We talk about it here on the show a lot. Our Mercury retrograde actually already began. It began last month in November on the 26th. It began at 22 degrees of Sagittarius. And what's interesting is it's going to station on the 15th of December, right? It's going to station right on that next upcoming full moon. It'll station at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. So if you have planets between 6 and 22 degrees of Sagittarius, or really any of the mutable signs, they're going to be impacted by this. So some things to think about. First, the last time we had a Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius was actually the beginning of the year, was last December, and it went stationed in either January 1st or January 2nd, depending on where you live of this year. And interestingly, it went direct at 22 Sagittarius, the same degree it is currently started this retrograde in. So you may find that during this window of time, if 3 weeks, if we're looking at the retrograde, it could be up to 9 weeks if you're looking at the period before and after, that pre and post shadow, as we call it. You may find themes repeating. There may have been something going on in your life, in your world, where Sagittarius energy influences you, that you were in the period of the redo, the revisit back in January, and now here we are doing it again. The do-over of the do-over, as it were. The other thing that is of note is even though we're going to see it go stationary direct, there is what I mentioned, that post shadow. If the retrograde of going, the visual illusion of the planet going backwards through the zodiac, if it began at 22 and it's gone all the way back and it ends at 6, we need time after it goes direct for it to go from 6 back up to 22 to catch up with where it started. And so that period is often referred to as the post shadow. For those of us feeling strongly affected by a retrograde, those pre and post shadows can also be windows of experiencing kind of residuals of this energy. I feel that a lot of times I don't necessarily understand what's happening during the retrograde. I'm experiencing it. And it's during those weeks following in that post shadow that I have the opportunity to reflect and maybe gain understanding, or to figure out what it was that needed the do-over, and now I can do the course correction. So I'm able to move forward in direct motion by making the tweaks, the adaptions, the changes that the retrograde brought up to my consciousness. So that's something to think about. And the big thing here is that Mercury is not comfortable in the sign of Sagittarius. This is the sign often referred to as its detriment. It is naturally rules Gemini and Virgo. And as the ruler of Gemini, the sign opposite it, Sagittarius, would be the sign of its detriment. It's not comfortable. It isn't that it can't function here, it certainly can, right? And there are strengths that we can find here, but it's just the energy of the sign and the energy of the planet are innately pull us in different directions. And we have to reverse that energy and figure out, how am I going to blend it? How am I going to make it work together? So, what do we mean when we say these energies are different? Let's just think about that. Sagittarius is a fire sign. And so, whenever Mercury is in any of the fire signs, we may find that our mind is literally on fire. We have ideas that are just going so quick. The passion can be really strong. I see the bigger picture in my mind's eye is really strong. And yet, how do I make that a physical reality? How do I get everything in my head out and manifested? That can be the challenge. This is a great time for envisioning what I want to be doing, envisioning the no boundary, what's beyond the horizon, let's break free, not necessarily taking action on it. This is a great time to make those blueprints, make those plans, go back to the old plan since we're in a retrograde that you once had about what were the things you wanted to explore. And maybe this is a good time to dust off those papers and really revisit that and get some clarity about what we want to do once this planet has gone direct and moved into the next sign, which would be Capricorn. In other words, now's a good time to be thinking about what I want to implement then. Also, with the idea of seeing the big picture and Sagittarius being very associated with wanting to get out of what I know and experience the unknown, experience what's out there, the adventurer, the explorer, we may feel very restless. Tedium, tasks, details of our regular everyday life may not have much of an allure. We're so busy wanting to be exploring out there that doing the things we have to do in day to day life could be really difficult and could be challenging. So, if you're feeling a little restless, I would invite you to be kind to yourself and also consider, where can you have a bit of a mental break from the day-to-day stresses of life? How can we mentally explore by watching videos or travel logs or reading books, finding adventure, going out for foreign food, bringing a little of that foreign energy element to us to help break up the what could feel like the humdrum of mundane life. Now, Sagittarius is also a mutable sign. And when Mercury is in any of the mutable signs, it is usually a bit easier for us to fall into that flow of being flexible, adaptable, changeable. This is like a sailboat out on the ocean, and as the winds shift, we adjust our sails accordingly. And so we may find that we're not thrown off course by some of those everyday Mercury retrograde occurrences, like the unexpected computer crash or latest upgrade or communication snafu of some sort, things that often happen when Mercury's retrograde. We may be able to kind of work with it. And yet, at the same time, if we're stuck in a space of needing to be changeable, then this could be saying we're making change for change's sake. We're in that I'm feeling restless, as I mentioned, and in order to get out of it, I'm now just going to throw out the blueprint and create something totally new. Remember that when Mercury is retrograde, it's not an ideal time to create something new or to start new ventures. It is ideal to go back, repeat, finish, revise, do over, edit, complete what was left unfinished. It is that kind of work. So be careful and certainly try to resist that I need to change everything now vibe, if that's something that you're feeling. And one of the things I think is the number one thing I kind of stick like a post-it note that I stick on my forehead, I try to remember, is to avoid overcommitting. Sagittarius loves to see the big picture. It's naturally ruled by the planet Jupiter, which is all about expansion. When Mercury is in Sagittarius, our mind wants everything to be bigger than life, and we get excited. That fiery passion gets excited, and it can be easy to say, I can do that, and I can do that, and I can do that. And when reality hits later, when the retrograde is over, we find ourselves exhausted by all the things we wanted to do that we committed to do. So actually, the advice I give others is try to avoid overcommitting, but the advice I give myself is let's just not make commitments. As much as is possible, I try to avoid committing until Mercury has moved into Capricorn, when I have more of that grounded earth energy connected to the realm of my mind. This is a good time to think about the list of things I want to commit to. This is when I like to brainstorm and come up with the big list of what is it that's going to feed my fire and feed my passion. And maybe if I commit to something, it's something that is a one-time commitment that is designed to recharge my battery, refuel my mind, give me a little bit of lift so that I'm able to do the work that's going to follow when we're in the next sign. So that's our Mercury retrograde info. Next, I want to talk about Mars. And the Mars energy, the Mars retrograde, is going to last a bit longer. It moves slower, it lasts longer. Mars will go retrograde on December 6th at 6 degrees of Leo. And we're going to see it retrograde until February 24th, when it will station at 17 degrees of Cancer. So this retrograde is going to cover two signs, the very beginning of Leo and the tail end of Cancer. We're actually not going to be out of the post shadow, if you work with that post shadow energy with Mars, until late spring. So this is energy that's here for a while. It's going to make some significant changes in our life, in our perspectives. If you want to think about this energy in kind of two parts, that's the way I think about it. There's the Mars in Leo side of the equation. This is very fun. This is very exciting. Mars is about energy and action and movement out into the world. Leo is about our passion, the desire to share that passion, to be creative. Often with Mars and Leo, we feel spontaneous. We feel more buoyant. We feel alive. We want to party. We want to have a good time. We want to share that joy with others. We're wanting to put our energy out. And if there's something I've been desiring to go after, I'm ready to go and get it or to make it happen. This is when that sense of self, the I am principle, is really strong. We're not caught up with doubt or disbelief. It's out of the picture. I'm just excited and alive, and let's throw another log on that Leo fire and see how big of a blaze we can create. Then there's the side that is the Mars in Cancer energy, which is very different. Mars is actually in its fall in Cancer. It is the sign that is the most difficult for a planet to be in when it's in its fall. It's very difficult because the energy and the hardwiring of how that part of our personality, that planet represents, is contrary to the energy of the sign. And so what we have to do is figure out a new way of working that part of ourself, a new playbook, if you will, new set of rules of how that part of me is going to be, so that we can integrate the energy of the sign and the energy of the planet and have them work together. First thing to think about with this is what house in your chart, of your natal chart, is being impacted, because the themes associated with that house is how we're going to find the way of working these two contrary energies and bringing them together. The other thing is, let's think about the strengths we have with Cancer. How do we integrate? We have to first think about what part of Cancer energy does our Mars want to bring in and can it work with? So this idea of Cancer is often associated with nurturance. Cancer is often associated with mothers and motherhood. And so this idea of what am I going to gestate? What needs time to develop, to not only be nurtured, but to develop, to grow, to reach its full potential? And Cancer is a water sign. So what is happening with the world of my feelings and my emotions? What is happening with the world of intuition? Water signs also have that ebb and flow nature. This isn't I have an idea and let me run with it. With Mars and Leo, we may feel like we're the Olympian. Give me that torch and let me run forward. Here, we're more like at the ocean. The tide will go out and then it will come back in, and then it will go out and then it will come back in. And every time it comes in, it may come in stronger and with more gusto. And every time it goes out, we may feel a bit energetically depleted. And we have to take things in steps, in stages, in waves, right? We have to work with the current of energy, whether that's our physical vitality energy or whether that's the energy of where I'm inspired and where I'm feeling deflated. But there's going to be those highs and lows. That's going to be a natural part of the process. And as I mentioned, it's to me, when a planet is in its fall, there's actually the potential for great strength here. It's difficult to figure out often in the beginning, how do I get these two energies to work together? But once we do, it is a superpower, is the way I like to think about it. And so here, Mars's natural default is it's about me. I need to do it now. I'm excited. Let's go. We'll figure it out as we go. That's the natural nature. Let's invite our Mars to think a little differently and to move our energy out into the world by a different set of rules that are more Cancerian. This could be saying that first, I need some time for self nurturance. Before I take my passion out into the world, I need to fill my cup. There's a common saying here about you cannot pour water from a pitcher that's empty. I think it's important for our Mars, our energy, our battery, our vitality, our excitement, the project and the passions that are currently we're ready to run with. How about first I pause? I'm not saying stop, I'm just saying pause and make sure we have what we need physically and emotionally to see something through to completion. Because one of the challenges with Mars in Cancer is we can get stuck with stops and starts. And so if I make sure that if I'm going to do a physical exertion kind of project, did I get some sleep? Am I eating a breakfast? Am I taking care of my physical needs before I get wrapped up in the excitement? If it's more of a mental type project, do I have everything I need before I begin? Do I have all the papers? Do I have that organization? Yes, this is tedium for Mars, but that idea of taking a little bit of time to be prepared, to have what I need, to take care of myself so that I'm ready for the task before I run with it, means I'll be able to cross that finish line. And also, there's some energy here about how am I going to parent myself, mother myself. Nurturing is one aspect of that, but another aspect could be how do I allow myself to grow to completion? Perhaps with Mars retrograde, it's recognizing what is not yet complete, what has not fully germinated about myself, my being, my sense of identity, what piece needs a little more time, a little more encouragement to get to that place so that it's ready to be born. I'm ready for that birth. I'm ready to bring it forward. And this could be saying that a lot of the things we want to be starting right now or launching in the new year with are actually things that are going to be launching a little bit later. Instead of beginning on January 1st or even earlier, in December. Maybe we're looking at starting mid-January or February 1st so that we have that time. And lastly, I'd also like to just throw out there, this could be a really useful opportunity to do a little bit of a dive around emotions that haven't been fully released, fully expressed, or fully processed. Sometimes the idea of the ocean and the tides and the energy coming and going corresponds to the world of feelings and emotions. Often we have an emotion that is complex and we may feel it in one stage, but there are more layers. Think about complicated things such as joy, grief, loss, rebirth. Those are things that have layers upon layers of emotions, and we may have processed one of those layers, but still have others that need to be, as I said, felt, released, brought up, shared, whatever it is we need to do. So this could be a really good pause moment of using both Mercury and Mars energy to say, what do I want to do? Am I ready to do that? What do I need to start off with the greatest chance of success? What am I still feeling? What am I carrying from the past that maybe is emotional and it's time to let that go or find a way of minimizing the weight, the load of it. Okay, once all that is done, now we're ready to, as soon as Mars goes direct again, we're ready to jump forward. Giving you those time frames once again, we're looking at Mars going retrograde December 6th, and over the holidays and January doing this work so that when it goes direct again on February 24th, we're in motion and we're ready to really jump in and use that fiery Leo energy. The heaviest part of this could be the period while Mars is in Cancer. And so we find that as it's retrograding back, it actually retrogrades back into and re-enters Cancer on January 6th until it completes its retrograde in February. And this time period may reflect for you what was happening back when it first entered Cancer, when it was moving direct before the retrograde began back in October, especially the last half of October, from October 16th to Halloween. That period, what were we experiencing then? Maybe something that's coming up for our retrograde review. And another thing of importance would be that in early November, before all this began, we had Mars and Pluto in opposition. When Mars had reached 29 degrees, the last degree of Cancer, it made an exact opposition to Pluto, which was at 29 degrees of Capricorn, before it finally went back into Aquarius. And so we may find that in early January, as Mars is retrograding back and it hits that point of 29 degrees of Cancer, this could be a very poignant moment to really reflect this idea of what action, Mars, have I been afraid, Pluto, to take? And this could be a good opportunity to, as I said, revisit that. What part of my identity needs a little more nurturance to help me not be so afraid? Or if fear is not the motivator for you, then perhaps the other question would be, what part of my identity has remained hidden and it's time for it to come to light? Wonderful period when you think about the fact that we've got Mars overlaid over Mercury, a wonderful period for reflection and self-realization. And hopefully, once everything is direct and moving forward, for self-actualization in the coming year. All right, those are my thoughts on those two. I hope you've enjoyed listening to Anne, Monika, and myself and the different info we've brought forward. Please, as always, put your comments, if you watch us on YouTube, below. We love to have conversation there. If you listen to us on one of the podcast platforms, we would appreciate it if you would take a moment to rate and review so that others can find their way to our show. And hopefully we'll be together in 2 weeks' time to review the upcoming full moon. My hope is that we will all be together on the same virtual screen, at least, and we'll get to talk about what energy we are wrapping up the year with before we move into 2025. Until then, have a wonderful 2 weeks and enjoy your holiday season. Goodbye. Thank you for joining us in this week's Astro Chat. We hope that you enjoyed the discussion and would love to hear about anything that resonated with you. Keep the conversation going by posting shareable content on our Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube pages. You can also email us at astrochatpodcast@gmail.com. AstroChat is uploaded every 2 weeks on the Saturday before each new and full moon. Look for us on your favorite podcast platform as well as on YouTube. You can support AstroChat and receive exclusive content by donating on our Patreon page. We look forward to chatting with you all again at the next lunation of the moon.